Ambassador Min-Jun Park stared at the data streaming across his screen and felt his stomach turn. 3 years of diplomatic service on the Galactic Council station had taught him to read between the lines of official reports. But this was different. This was not hidden between lines. This was buried under layers of classified encryption that Dr. Junho Lee had spent 6 months carefully unraveling. "Tell me I am reading this wrong," Min-Jun said quietly. Junho shook his head. The cultural liaison had lost weight over the past weeks. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. "You are reading it correctly. The Development Protection Program is not a protection program at all." Director Seo-yeon Kim stood by the viewport, her reflection ghostly against the stars beyond. 43 species under Council protection. Every single one locked into resource extraction agreements that prevent real development. They are kept dependent, deliberately. Min-Jun scrolled through case files. The Narixi people had asked for educational technology. The Council provided food shipments instead, then charged fees that required mining rights as payment. The Talveen requested medical aid. They received it, along with supervisors who now controlled their entire healthcare system and had integrated themselves so deeply that removal would collapse the infrastructure. Species after species, trapped in cycles designed to look like help. "How long has this been happening?" Min-Jun asked. "At least 8 centuries, Seo-yeon replied. "Probably longer. The files only go back that far." Captain Hana Choi entered the room, her uniform crisp despite the late hour. "I've reviewed the military aspects. Council peacekeeping forces are not just protecting these species from external threats. They are preventing internal reform movements. Any leader who questions the arrangement disappears into re-education programs." Min-Jun felt something break inside him. Humans had joined the Galactic Council only 15 years ago, eager to participate in the grand civilization spanning thousands of worlds. Earth had been so proud. They had believed the Council's principles of cooperation and mutual advancement. They had trusted. "We have to report this," Junho said. "The full Council Assembly needs to see this evidence." "They already know," Seo-yeon said flatly. "The encryption was Council level. This is not a secret from leadership. This is the system working as designed." Hana crossed her arms. "Then we demand immediate reforms. We are a member species. We have standing to call for investigation and policy changes." Min-Jun nodded slowly. "Prepare a full presentation. Include everything. Names, dates, resource flows, all of it. We present to the Council in 3 days." Those 3 days felt like 3 years. Min-Jun rehearsed his speech until the words carved themselves into his mind. Junho compiled data visualizations that even the most willfully blind could not ignore. Seo-yeon built an airtight case. Hana coordinated with Earth's fleet just in case. The Council chamber held representatives from 217 species. Min-Jun had presented before this body dozens of times, usually on trade minutiae or cultural exchange programs. Today, the chamber felt different, heavier. As if the weight of centuries pressed down on the crystalline dome above them. "Honored counselors," Min-Jun began. "Humanity came to this council with open hearts and great hope. We believed in the principles written into your founding documents. Protection of the vulnerable, advancement of all species, cooperation built on mutual respect." He activated the display. Numbers and names filled the air in glowing text. "We have discovered that these principles are lies." The chamber erupted. Councillor Kelrath, a massive Hegeron with deep blue skin, rose to his full 3-meter height. "How dare you make such accusations? You humans are barely children in galactic terms. 15 years in the Council, and you believe you understand thousands of years of careful policy?" "I understand theft," Min-Jun said calmly. "I understand exploitation. Here is what the Development Protection Program actually does." For 20 minutes, he laid out the evidence. resource extraction disguised as aid, dependency by design, military enforcement of economic servitude. The math was simple once you saw it clearly. Protected species provided raw materials worth trillions, received aid worth millions, and could never escape the cycle. The council chamber grew quieter as he spoke. Some representatives looked genuinely shocked. Others wore expressions that confirmed Seo Yan's analysis. They had always known. When Minjun finished, Counselor Vic Sala of the Silithine spoke. Her crystalline form shimmered with colors humans had learned indicated deep thought. These are serious allegations. If true, they represent profound failures. We should investigate immediately. Investigate? Thormac of the Gordanian Military Corps laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Humans are emotional creatures. They see suffering and cannot accept that some species require guidance. The protected peoples are not ready for full autonomy. We provide stability. You provide chains, Junho said from beside Minjun. Stable chains, perhaps, but chains nonetheless. Kelrath's voice boomed across the chamber. And what would you have us do? Remove all support structures and watch these species collapse? Your human sentimentality would cause real harm. We have built systems over centuries. You want to tear them down because your feelings are hurt. Our feelings are not hurt, Minjun replied. Our principles are offended. There is a difference. Earth demands immediate reforms. Full transparency in all protection agreements. Independent audits of resource flows. Free elections on protected worlds, and immediate cessation of all military interference in internal governance. The chamber filled with voices. Some supported investigation. Many more dismissed human concerns as naive. Kelrath called for a vote on a resolution declaring Earth's accusations baseless and dangerous. The resolution passed. 173 to 44. Minjun watched the vote tally display and felt the last of his hope die. The system was not broken. The system worked exactly as designed, and those who benefited from it would never willingly change. He stood slowly. Around him, counselors were already moving to other business. The human disruption had been noted and dismissed. Everything would continue as it always had. I request the floor for one final statement, Minjun said. Kelrath waved a dismissive hand. Make it brief. We have real work to conduct. Minjun looked across the chamber at representatives from hundreds of worlds. Some met his eyes. Most looked away. Humanity came to this council in good faith, he said. We believed in something better than ourselves. We were wrong. This institution is corrupt to its foundation. It cannot be reformed from within because the corruption is not a flaw. It is the design. He reached into his jacket and withdrew a crystal data card. Earth's formal seal glowed on its surface. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. We will no longer participate in this system. We will no longer lend our legitimacy to exploitation dressed as aid. The chamber exploded into chaos. Minjun placed the data card on the podium. Inside it, every secret file, every hidden report, every piece of evidence had been unlocked and transmitted to public networks across the galaxy. Anyone could now see what the council really was. Good luck explaining this to your people, Minjun said quietly. Then he turned and walked toward the exit, his team following behind. The chaos was just beginning. The data spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every public network carried the evidence that Minjun had released. Within days, species that had lived under council protection for generations were reading the truth about their own exploitation. The reaction was not what the council expected. Captain Hana Choi stood on the bridge of the ECS Indomitable, watching tactical displays as her fleet began evacuation operations. 300 human ships, from massive carriers to small diplomatic shuttles, were pulling personnel from council space. The operation had been planned in secret for weeks, just in case negotiations failed. Now that secret preparation proved essential. "Status report," Hana said crisply. 70% of human personnel evacuated, her tactical officer replied. "The Council has locked down some facilities. We have 247 people trapped in the Kelvrith sector. How many ships can we spare? For a rescue? Maybe 15 without compromising the main evacuation." Hana studied the tactical map. The Kelvrith sector sat deep in Council core space, surrounded by military installations. 15 ships would not be enough if the Council decided to use force, but leaving humans behind was not an option. "Send 20 ships," she said. "Tell them to go in fast and get out faster. Rules of engagement: defend themselves if attacked, but do not fire first." On the Council station that humans were rapidly abandoning, Min-jun worked through the final diplomatic protocols. Even in withdrawal, there were procedures to follow, assets to transfer, treaties to formally dissolve. The bureaucracy of separation was extensive. "Ambassador, you have visitors," his aide said nervously. 3 Council security officers stood in the doorway, along with Councillor Vixala. The Silathine's crystalline form pulsed with agitated colors. "I need to speak with you privately," Vixala said. "It is urgent." The security officers looked uncertain but stepped back. In Min-jun's office, Vixala dimmed her natural luminescence, a sign of distress in her species. "What you did was incredibly dangerous," she said quietly. "Kelrath and the hardliners are calling for your arrest. They want to charge you with theft of classified information and inciting rebellion." "They can call for whatever they want," Min-jun replied. "We are withdrawing. They have no jurisdiction over Earth." "You do not understand. They are not just angry. They are terrified. Species across the galaxy are questioning the protection agreements. The Nerixi have already demanded renegotiation. The Talvain are organizing protests. You have destabilized systems that have existed for centuries." "Good," Min-jun said flatly. "Those systems deserve to be destabilized." Vixala's colors flickered. "I agree with you." Min-jun looked up sharply. "What?" "Many of us agree with you," Vixala continued. "I have watched the protection programs for decades. I have voiced concerns, but the Council is old, Ambassador. Old and set in its ways. Change comes slowly, if at all. Those who benefit from the current system fight to maintain it. Then why are you here? To warn you, and to ask for your help, though I have no right to ask." "Warn me about what?" "Kelrath and the military faction are considering using force to prevent the remaining human personnel from leaving. They want to hold you as leverage, make Earth return and recant the accusations, show the galaxy that humans made a mistake and everything is actually fine." Min-jun felt cold. "They would start a war over this?" "They would do anything to protect their power," Vixala said. "Please, get your people out quickly. Once you are all safely in Earth-controlled space, they cannot touch you." "What help did you want to ask for?" Vixala pulsed with deep blue light. "Do not stop. What you started here, the questions you forced us to confront, some of us want to see them through. But we need time. We need the pressure to continue. Species must keep demanding answers. Keep demanding change. You want us to keep destabilizing the galaxy?" "I want you to keep telling the truth," Vixala corrected. "The galaxy needs that more than it needs stability built on lies." After Vixala left, Min-jun contacted Hana. "We need to accelerate the evacuation. The Council may use force to keep us here." "I was afraid of that," Hana replied. "I've already dispatched rescue ships to the trapped personnel, but it's going to be close." It was more than close. The rescue flotilla jumped into the Kelvrith sector to find Council military ships already surrounding the diplomatic facility, holding human personnel. For 10 tense minutes, the two forces faced each other, weapons armed but not fired. Commander Daijung Han led the rescue flotilla. He opened communications with the Council military commander, a Gordanian named Thexkor. "We are here for our people," Daijung said simply. "We do not want conflict." "Those personnel violated security protocols," Thexkor replied. "They must answer questions before departure. Our withdrawal is legal under Council Charter. You have no authority to detain them. We have the authority we claim." Daijung considered his options. 20 human ships against 40 Council vessels. His ships were fast and well-armed, but outnumbered. If shooting started, some humans would die. Maybe all of them. "I am sending a shuttle to collect our personnel," Daijung said. "You can fire on it if you want. But understand this. The moment you do, this becomes an act of war, and humanity does not take attacks on our people lightly." He launched the shuttle without waiting for response. It moved slowly toward the facility, completely unarmed, its shields down, a gesture of peace, or a dare. The Council ships did not fire. Something about that single small shuttle, vulnerable and determined, made Thexkor hesitate. He had fought in 17 campaigns. He knew when an enemy was bluffing and when they were committed. These humans were committed. "Let them pass," he ordered his fleet. "This is not worth starting a war." The shuttle collected the trapped personnel and returned. The human flotilla jumped away. Within 6 hours, every human in Council space had been evacuated. Earth's withdrawal was complete. On the Council station, emergency sessions ran around the clock. Representatives from protected species demanded answers. Trade networks began fracturing as trust evaporated. Species that had conducted business through Council frameworks for generations suddenly questioned every agreement. Kelrath addressed the full assembly, his voice thundering across the chamber. "Humans have betrayed this council. They have stolen classified data, made wild accusations, and fled like criminals. We must present a united front. We must show the galaxy that the Council remains strong and that human lies will not shake our foundations." But the foundations were already shaking. On 43 worlds, protected species were reading the evidence Min Jun had released. They were doing the math themselves. They were realizing how little they received for how much they gave. And they were angry. The Narixi government formally requested renegotiation of their protection agreement. The Council denied the request. 3 days later, Narixi workers shut down the mining operations that provided rare metals to Council industries. The Talvain medical administrators, installed by the Council decades ago, found themselves facing mass protests. Hospitals continued functioning, but Talvain citizens now demanded local control. Species after species began pushing back, not with violence, not with revolution, just with refusal to accept the old arrangements without question. The galaxy's comfortable stability was crumbling, and at the center of the chaos stood Earth's empty seat in the Council chamber, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful act is simply to walk away. The collapse came faster than anyone expected. 3 months after humanity's withdrawal, the Galactic Council faced challenges it had not encountered in 800 years. The systems built to maintain order were failing, and those who had benefited most from the old order were growing desperate. Dr. Junho Lee reviewed the latest reports from across the galaxy. His small office on Earth's orbital station had become a clearinghouse for information from dozens of species. Protected peoples reaching out to humanity, dissident groups sharing their stories, even some Council species quietly asking for advice on reform. The Narixi mining shutdown has cost the Council 3 trillion credits, Junho told Min Jun during their daily briefing. The Talvini healthcare protests have spread to 7 other protected worlds, and the Vasic people just declared their protection agreement void and demanded evacuation of Council peacekeepers. How did the Council respond to the Vasic? Min Jun asked. They sent military forces. Min Jun closed his eyes. How bad? The Vasic government building was surrounded. 23 people dead when security forces opened fire on protesters. The Council is calling it a regrettable but necessary action to restore order. They are making it worse, Min-jun said quietly. Every use of force creates 10 more resistance movements. I know. But they do not see any other option. They have maintained control through economic dependency and military presence for so long that they have forgotten how to do anything else. On the council station, emergency meetings had become constant. Kelrath stood before the full assembly, his blue skin darker than usual with stress. The situation grows more critical daily, he said. Trade routes are disrupted. Protected species refuse cooperation. 17 member species have reduced their council contributions. If this continues, we will face complete institutional collapse within a year. Perhaps collapse is what we need, Vixala said from her seat. The humans showed us that our foundations are rotten. Maybe we need to rebuild from scratch. Rebuild? Kelrath's voice shook with anger. You would throw away 8 centuries of galactic civilization because humans manipulated you with emotional appeals? They did not manipulate anything, Vixala replied. They revealed truth. There is a difference. The assembly dissolved into arguments. Hardliners insisted on using force to restore order. Reformers pushed for renegotiating protection agreements. Moderates tried to find middle ground that satisfied no one. The council had always made decisions through slow consensus. Now, when speed was essential, the old processes failed completely. While the council argued, the crisis deepened. The Narixi mining shutdown caused shortages in materials essential for starship manufacturing. 3 major shipyards closed. Thousands lost jobs. The economic ripples spread across the galaxy. Thormac saw opportunity in the chaos. The Gordanian military commander gathered forces loyal to the old order. If the council could not restore stability through diplomacy, he would restore it through force. The protected species are behaving like rebellious children, he told his commanders. They need a firm hand. We will demonstrate what happens when species reject council authority. Captain Hana Choi watched Gordanian fleet movements from her command center on Mars. The patterns were unmistakable. Thormac was concentrating forces near 3 protected worlds that had been most vocal in demanding change. He is planning something, Hana told her staff. Something big. We are not part of the council anymore, her tactical officer pointed out. Technically, this is not our problem. It became our problem when we released the evidence, Hana replied. We started this. We cannot just watch people die because we want to avoid responsibility. She opened a secure channel to Min-jun. I need authorization to move the fleet. To where? Council space. Thormac is preparing military action against protected species. If we do nothing, thousands could die. Min-jun was quiet for a long moment. You understand what you are asking? If we intervene, we become active participants in a conflict we said we wanted no part of. We said we wanted no part of exploitation, Hana corrected. We never said we would stand by while people were slaughtered. That is not who we are. No, Min-jun agreed. It is not. You have authorization. But Hana, do not start a war. Protect the vulnerable. But do not fire first. Understood. Hana's fleet moved into neutral space between Earth and the Council core territories. 50 ships, not enough to challenge the full Council military, but enough to make anyone think twice about attacking protected civilians. When the fleet's presence became known, reactions split along predictable lines. Kelrath denounced it as human aggression. Vixala quietly called it a necessary deterrent. Protected species saw it as hope. Thormac saw it as an insult. His fleet was 3 times the size of Hana's, and he had spent decades building military dominance in council space. Humans thought they could challenge him with 50 ships and moral superiority. He ordered his fleet to proceed with operations. Target, the Vasic homeworld, where protests had turned violent. Objective: arrest rebel leadership and restore council authority. Hana watched the Gordanian fleet approach the Vasek system. She had hoped her presence alone would be deterrent enough. She had been wrong. "All ships to battle stations," she ordered. "Jump to the Vasek system. Formation Delta. Rules of engagement remain unchanged. Defend civilians, but do not fire first." The human fleet materialized between the Gordanian ships and the planet below. On the surface, millions of Vasek people looked up at the sky, where human vessels now stood between them and Council military forces. Thormac opened communications. "Move aside, Captain. This is Council business. You have no authority here." "I have the authority of basic decency," Hana replied. "You are preparing to attack civilians. That stops now. You are outnumbered 3-1. I know. And yet here we stand." For 5 hours, the two fleets faced each other. Neither fired, neither moved. On the planet below, Vasek citizens organized the largest peaceful demonstration in their history. 2 million people gathered in their capital city, united in simple refusal to accept the old order. Thormac had planned to arrest a few hundred rebel leaders. Now he faced millions, and standing between his weapons and those millions were humans who had proven they were willing to lose everything for their principles. He could attack. He might even win against the human fleet, but the cost would be enormous. And what would victory accomplish? He could occupy the planet, but he could not make millions of people stop believing in change. For the first time in his military career, Thormac encountered an enemy he could not defeat with force. The humans had not brought superior weapons or greater numbers. They had brought something more dangerous, an idea. The idea that exploitation was not acceptable no matter how long it had continued. The idea that some things were worth fighting for even when the odds were against you. "Stand down," Thormac ordered his fleet. "Return to base." His commanders protested, but he overrode them. This battle was already lost. Not because humans were stronger, but because they had changed the nature of the conflict. You could not shoot an idea. You could not bomb a principle into submission. As the Gordanian fleet withdrew, celebration erupted on Vasek, and across the galaxy, protected species watching the standoff realized something crucial. They did not have to accept the old order. Change was possible. The chaos was spreading, but so was hope. And in the end, hope proved far more contagious than order built on fear. The exodus began 6 months after Earth's withdrawal. It started with individuals, then families, then entire communities. Protected species who could afford passage left their homeworlds, heading toward the one place in the galaxy that had proven willing to stand against the Council: human space. Director Seo-Yun Kim stood in the Refugee Processing Center on Luna, watching as another transport ship docked. 2,000 Narixi, fleeing economic sanctions the Council had imposed after their mining shutdown. The Narixi were small, barely reaching a human's waist, with pale green skin and large eyes adapted for underground living. "We have 12 more ships arriving today," her deputy reported. "Another 18 tomorrow. The numbers are increasing exponentially." Housing status. "We have converted the old mining facilities on Luna and Mars. That gives us space for maybe 200,000 refugees. After that, we need to start looking at building entirely new habitats." Seo-Yun did the math. At current rates, they would hit capacity within 3 weeks. Accelerate the construction projects and contact the outer colonies, see if any are willing to host refugees. Some colonists are concerned about resource strain. Then remind them that 6 months ago, we stood alone against the entire Galactic Council because it was the right thing to do. We do not abandon principles because they become inconvenient. The refugees brought stories. The Council had responded to resistance movements with economic warfare. Species that demanded renegotiation faced trade embargoes. Worlds that questioned protection agreements found their aid suspended. The message was clear: submit or suffer. But the strategy was backfiring. Every punitive action created more refugees. Every show of force generated more resistance. The Council was discovering that you cannot maintain control through fear once people stop being afraid. Dr. Junho Lee worked 18-hour days coordinating refugee services. His real job, though, was something different. He conducted interviews, thousands of them. Every refugee had a story about life under Council protection, about quotas that never made sense, about aid that came with impossible conditions, about the slow realization that they were not being helped but harvested. Junho compiled these stories into broadcasts that spread across the galaxy. Not propaganda, just people telling their truths in their own words. The testimonies were devastating precisely because they were so ordinary. No dramatic revelations, just the daily reality of exploitation dressed as assistance. On Earth, Min-jun received an unexpected visitor. Counselor Vix Ala arrived on a small, unmarked ship, traveling in secret. If Kelrath knew I was here, he would call it treason, Vix Ala said as they met in Min-jun's office in Geneva. Is it? Min-jun asked. Treason against what? A corrupt system that has lost its way? If standing for justice is treason, then I accept the label. Why did you come? Vix Ala's crystalline form shimmered. Because the Council is fracturing. The hardliners like Kelrath control the military and economic apparatus. But many representatives are questioning everything now. We see what is happening. The refugees, the resistance movements, the complete failure of every attempt to restore the old order. We want change, but we do not know how to achieve it. And you think humanity has answers? I think humans have something more important than answers. You have courage. You walked away when walking away meant standing alone. That act showed every species in the galaxy that the Council is not inevitable, that there are alternatives. What do you want from us? Help. Not military help. Not economic help. Help understanding how to build something better. Humans created voluntary cooperation among refugees from dozens of species in just months. The Council could not achieve that in centuries. What do you know that we do not? Min-jun considered the question. We treat people like people, not resources to be managed, not problems to be solved. People with their own agency and dignity. It is not complicated. It is to us, Vix Ala said quietly. The Council was built on the idea that some species know better than others, that wisdom comes from age and advancement, that protection and control are the same thing. Humans showed us those ideas are wrong, but we do not know what to replace them with. Captain Hana Choi was dealing with a different kind of challenge. 3 Council member species had asked for Earth's protection, not protection from external threats. Protection from the Council itself. The Pelvan delegation is here, her aide announced. 5 Pelvans entered Hana's office on the orbital defense station. They were tall and thin, with skin that shifted colors based on emotion. Right now, all 5 showed deep purple, indicating fear. Thank you for meeting with us, Captain, their leader said. We know you are busy with refugee coordination. How can I help you? Our world wishes to withdraw from the Council, like Earth did. But we are afraid of the consequences. The Council has made examples of protected species who resisted. We are a full member, but we have no military to speak of. If Kelrath decides to use force against us, we cannot defend ourselves. You want Earth's protection? We want to do what is right, but we do not want our people to die for it. Can you help us? Hana felt the weight of the question. 6 months ago, Earth had stood alone. Now species were looking to humanity for leadership. The responsibility was enormous. "I need to consult with Ambassador Park," Hannah said. "But I will tell you this. If you withdraw from the Council, Earth will not let you face the consequences alone. We do not have the power to protect everyone, but we have enough power to make aggression costly." The Pelvan leader's colors shifted to warm yellow. Relief. "That is all we ask. Not a guarantee of safety, just the knowledge that we are not alone." After they left, Hannah contacted Min Jun. "The Pelvans want to withdraw from the Council. They are asking for our protection. What do I tell them?" "Tell them yes," Min Jun said without hesitation. "And contact every species that has reached out to us with similar questions. Tell them all yes. We did not start this fight to watch from the sidelines. That is going to make us even more enemies on the Council. The Council is not our concern anymore, the people suffering under it are." 3 weeks later, the Pelvans formally announced their withdrawal from the Galactic Council. They were followed within days by 2 other member species, then 5 more, then 12. The flood had become a torrent, and at the center of it stood humanity, offering not protection through force, but partnership through choice. They built refugee centers that became thriving communities. They mediated disputes between species who had never met before. They created trade networks based on mutual benefit rather than extraction. The galaxy had descended into chaos. But in that chaos, something new was taking shape. Not a council built on hierarchy and control, not a human empire built on dominance. Something entirely different. A coalition of the willing. Species cooperating because they chose to, not because they had to. Humans facilitating not by ruling, but by showing what was possible when you treated others with dignity and respect. Kelrath watched these developments with growing alarm. The old order was dying, and he had no idea how to stop it. 1 year after humanity's withdrawal, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. Only 143 representatives attended. The rest had withdrawn, stopped sending delegates, or simply stopped participating. The chamber that once held 217 species now looked empty. Kelrath stood before the diminished assembly. The massive Hegeron had lost weight. His blue skin had dulled. A year of fighting losing battles had worn him down. "We cannot continue like this," he said, his voice lacking its former thunder. "Our trade networks have collapsed. Protected species have declared independence. Member species flee to human coalition space. We have become irrelevant." "Then perhaps we should stop fighting and start listening," Vixala replied. Her crystalline form pulsed with steady green light. Determination. "The galaxy has spoken clearly. It does not want the old council. We can either adapt or disappear." Adapt to what? Human sentimentality? Building civilization on emotions rather than order? Building civilization on consent rather than control, Vixala corrected. "There is a difference, Kelrath. One you have never been willing to see." On Earth, Ambassador Min Jun Park prepared for a meeting that would have been unthinkable a year ago. 50 species had gathered in Geneva. Representatives from the coalition that had formed around humanity's withdrawal. But today's attendees included 3 unexpected additions: Councillor Vixala and 2 other progressive council representatives. "Thank you all for coming," Min Jun began. "A year ago, Earth walked away from the Galactic Council. We did not do it lightly. We did it because we saw no other path to justice. But walking away was never the goal. Justice was the goal. And justice requires building something better than what we left behind. The question is what that something looks like," said the Pelvan representative. "We have created an informal coalition, but it lacks structure. We need frameworks for trade, for dispute resolution, for mutual defense. We need institutions." "But not like the old council," a Narixi delegate added quickly. "No more protection programs that trap people in dependency. No more hierarchy that places some species above others." Vixala spoke carefully. There are many in the Council who now recognize its failures. We have spent the past year watching the coalition you built here. Species cooperating voluntarily, trade based on mutual benefit, disputes resolved through mediation rather than force. It should not work, according to everything we believed about galactic governance. But it does work. It works because humans refused to become what they opposed, Dr. Junho Lee said. We could have used our moral authority to dominate others. Instead, we facilitated cooperation. We could have extracted resources from grateful refugees. Instead, we invested in their independence. We could have built an empire. We chose to build a community. A community needs structure to survive long-term, Vixala said. I came here to propose something radical. Dissolve the Galactic Council. Build something new, together, not human-led, not council-led. A true partnership where every species has equal voice regardless of military power or economic strength. The chamber erupted in conversation. The idea was enormous. The council was 800 years old. Dissolving it meant abandoning frameworks that had shaped galactic civilization for generations. What would replace it? Minjun asked. That is what we must decide together, Vixala replied. I do not have all answers. None of us do. But I know what principles must guide us. Consent over control, partnership over protection, transparency over secrecy, justice over stability. Captain Hana Choi entered the chamber with urgent news. Kelrath is moving the remaining Council military forces, 40 ships heading toward the neutral zone. He is making one last stand. The room tensed. A year of avoiding direct military conflict could end in moments. What are his demands? Minjun asked. He wants negotiation. He says the Council is willing to discuss reforms if the coalition agrees to a ceasefire and stops accepting new withdrawals. He wants to stop the bleeding, Hana said, but he is not actually offering real change, just negotiation about possible future reforms, the same delaying tactics they have used for decades. Minjun looked at Vixala. Is this your faction's position? No, Vixala said firmly. This is Kelrath's desperation. He commands the military, but he does not speak for everyone. Many of us are ready to move beyond reform. We are ready for transformation. Then we need to be clear, Minjun said. Not just with Kelrath, but with the entire galaxy. Hana, move our fleet to match his position, but hold fire. And what do we tell him? Tell him the time for negotiating reforms is over. Tell him he can join us in building something new, or he can maintain the old council with whoever chooses to stay. But we will not stop growing. We will not stop accepting species who want change. The choice is his. The human fleet met Kelrath's forces at the boundary of neutral space. For 2 days they faced each other. Behind Kelrath, the fading council. Behind humanity, the growing coalition. On the second day, something unexpected happened. 3 council military ships broke formation, then 7 more, then 15. They moved to join the human fleet. Kelrath watched his forces defect and finally understood. He had lost not because humans were stronger. He had lost because they offered something worth believing in. His ships and commanders were not abandoning him out of fear. They were leaving because they wanted to be part of building the future rather than defending the past. He opened communications with Minjun. You have won, Ambassador. This was never about winning, Minjun replied. It was about doing what was right. What happens now? Now you make a choice. You can try to maintain the old council with whoever remains loyal, or you can help us build something better. Either way, we continue forward. Kelrath was quiet for a long moment. Everything he had believed in for decades had crumbled. The certainty that hierarchy and control were necessary for civilization. The conviction that some species needed to rule others. All of it proven false by humans who succeeded through cooperation and respect. I choose to help, he said finally. I do not know if I can. I do not know if my ideas have value in what you are building, but I choose to try. 3 months later, delegates from 231 species gathered in Geneva for the founding of the Galactic Assembly. Not a council built on hierarchy, an assembly built on equality. Every species with one vote, regardless of size or power. Decisions by consensus when possible, by majority when necessary. No protection programs, no client species. No exploitation dressed as aid. The old Galactic Council was formally dissolved. A few hardliners refused to participate, maintaining their own small federation. But most species joined the assembly, recognizing that the galaxy had changed too much to go back. Ambassador Min-Jun Park addressed the first full session. A year ago, Earth broke ties with the Galactic Council and plunged the universe into chaos. I will not apologize for that chaos. Sometimes breaking what is broken is the only path to building what is just. Today, we begin the work of building, not a human vision for the galaxy, a shared vision, one where every species has dignity, where cooperation is chosen, not imposed, where we are united not by force or fear, but by recognition that we are stronger together when that togetherness is genuine. The applause lasted 7 minutes. From former council members, from protected species now free, from refugees who had found new homes, from humans who had started the transformation by simply refusing to accept injustice. The chaos had given way to order, but this order was different. Not stability built on exploitation, not peace built on submission. A foundation built on consent, cooperation, and the radical idea that treating people with dignity was not naive sentimentality, but the only way to build civilization that deserved to last. Earth had broken ties with the old galaxy, and in doing so had helped birth a new one.